back. The Nelson Mandela Children's Fund has hosted a dialogue ahead of Children's Day, it's World Children's Day tomorrow, to discuss their rights in South Africa, and I suppose further afield as well. The organisation highlighting the need to recognise violence against children as a crucial social and economic problem for the country's growth. Just these latest crime statistics revealed that 293 children were murdered in South Africa. That's in a 3-month period between April and June of this year. And it was an increase on the previous quarter by 50 deaths. So how can we all play our part in protecting our children? We're joined in studio this morning by the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, Dr. Ncube-Nkomo. It's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you for having us here and talking about children.
What an incredibly important discussion. You know, where do we begin? Because when we talk about the challenges facing children ahead of World Children's Day tomorrow, it's so multifaceted, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely multifaceted. And so for yesterday's event, we decided to focus on one vital sphere, which is child protection. Because like you've just read the stats, children killed means they're not being protected. Whether we're talking about them being protected in their homes, being protected at school, protected in the community, children are not being protected in South Africa. And we really need to start thinking about a South Africa that's fit for children.
I mean, you know, the discussion, the reason why I'm saying to you, like, it's difficult to know where to begin, because that protection even is multifaceted, right?
Right.
We need to begin at the very basics, providing a safe home environment, and then giving them every opportunity for education, for example, so that they grow into people who can be productive members of society.
And even with providing that safe home environment, children are not safe at home. So the home environment is not necessarily a safe environment. I think every adult caregiver needs to be intentional about being aware of how safe their homes are. Yeah. Because you hear of children being abused, sexually abused, physically abused, being deprived of food in the home. So the home is the unsafest place for children, and that's where we've got to start. Because if children are feeling safer at school than they are at home, then we've failed them. We've totally failed them.
What does that say about us as society? And you know, government will always, when we have these kinds of discussions about what takes place in the home, and it's a fair statement, and perhaps you'll agree or disagree with me, that government can't be everywhere all the time.
I absolutely agree with you. Government doesn't raise our children for us. Government creates the institutions that should reinforce the safety that we expect to see at home. So government's not walking around sexually abusing children, right? Where does government fail? Government fails when one department has done what's required and another department has not done it. So government fails in the sense that there isn't an integrated approach to making sure that perpetrators of violence against children are brought to justice and an example is made of them so that children can start to feel somebody cares.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're talking now about our justice system and where that fits into the discussion around keeping children safe. There is the Department of Social Development. There's the Department of Basic Education. Is that part of the dialogue that you held yesterday about how these different spheres of government should be coming together to start addressing what we're discussing?
So yesterday we had both the Minister and Deputy Minister of Social Development in the room. And we were talking around how do we get a center that's strong enough at government level that will hold and make sure that Department of Health and Department of Social and all these various departments that have got to work in an integrated manner start to work in an integrated manner. Because it doesn't help the child for one department to say, we've done our part, and another hasn't. There's got to be that accountability center that says, all of you have got to be working in tandem, left foot, right foot, for us to make sure that the children have got the justice that they have a right to.
Because, you know, if we walk around in any community, any impoverished community in our country, it'll be an ordinary weekday during school hours, you will see so many children walking around not in school. right? Education must surely be, if we're going to take our children from those impoverished communities and give them a chance at life, a real chance. These are the children, hopefully, that make it to matric. But even just to make it to matric, they need to climb mountains to have the same opportunities that those of us who live in more affluent areas just wake up with. It's normal for some of us, and for the rest of us, we have to climb mountains, we have to cross rivers, quite literally.
And you know, the conversation starts about that particular socioeconomic group of children. That conversation starts before they're even born. Because a child that's born to a mother that has not had adequate nutrition is likely to be underweight in birth, is likely to be malnourished. 27.5% of children in South Africa under the age of 5, stunted growth. That means they will never, or they have got a harder climb towards getting to matric.
Never mind
passing matric.
Never mind fetal alcohol syndrome, which we know is another big issue.
Another big issue. So like you said when we started, the issues are multifaceted. And so yesterday we had to say, which is the one where every single adult is in control? Because you may not necessarily be in control of being the ability to give adequate nutrition to your children, because you need to have a source of income. But man, you're in control of making sure they're safe.
Yeah. Linda, I feel discouraged having this discussion with you. Because there are just so many challenges facing our children. They have such an uphill battle to just have a chance at life in our country. For example, you talk about the malnourished issue. Just having a plate of food. Most of our children in impoverished communities depend on that one meal that they get at school feeding schemes.
Yeah.
You know? Do you feel differently having had those discussions yesterday? Do you feel like there is some hope on the horizon? Are we making inroads?
I feel like we've made some inroads, but we still have got a very long way to go. And so yesterday's discussion were very deliberate about hosting it at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Because, you know, when I look at what corporates focus on in terms of the social responsibility areas, I'm yet to come across a corporate that says, our focus is going to be children.
Right.
So you'll find children shrouded under, we focus on health. Health could be anybody, right? You'll find them saying we focus on education. What of education? What's the point of saying we're going to make sure schools are built and books are at school, but you are having students that are malnourished, you're having students that are abused in homes, in communities, in schools. And so I said to the JSC yesterday that I would love, you know, children don't have the agency that women had a couple of years ago where we said we're going to shut down the stock exchange because gender-based violence needs to be a focus area. Children can't shut down the stock exchange. So we then need to go to the stock exchange and say, you know what, your investors, how do we get them to balance making sure that the future producers of the products are actually invested in from the time they're in utero to a point where they can use those products. Yeah.
Because it's in all of our benefit, right, that we get this right. And the money is there. And, you know, it's actually a discussion that I had with our producer, Lopang Mokai, yesterday. I asked her, why did you have it at the JSE?
Yes.
And it's important that we actually say there was a very deliberate reason for that, because the money in corporate is there.
Yes.
Imagine if every corporate adopted a school, for example, or adopted 10 schools and said, we are going to invest in these 10 schools and try and take, 98% of these children, if not 100, from grade R all the way to grade 12.
Maybe what we need to be investing in is a community. Because children, remember, they're raised in a home, they live in a community, they go to school. So if we were to say, what do we need to do within this community to create awareness around child safety and protection, to create awareness around child rights? So we were having a conversation around child rights, and I was sitting there and saying, when did I, as a mother, become aware that there's actually a Bill of Rights of Children? It's when my little boy went to grade R. And he was saying, Mommy, there is a Bill of Rights against children. You can't smack me. I'll dial 911. That's when I actually became conscious and started to look at life through the eyes of a child. Because I had this child who came home and said, this is what we learned at school. So how many homes are raising children without an awareness of children's
own rights? Yeah.
Without an awareness that Section 28 of the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights, says children must have nutrition, adequate nutrition, not dependent on resources. Children have a right to be fed. So if we can get that awareness, get it going through in the communities, maybe we'll start to influence the ecosystem rather than saying we'll get them from grade R to grade 12, because for a lot of them it's too late.
Wow. Linda, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for coming into studio. And what an important discussion this is. One thing's for sure, it's going to take all of us doing our bit where we are.
Absolutely.
To try and get this right. Dr. Linda Ncube-Nkomo is the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund.